It lives 50 feet beneath the streets. It weighs over 2,000 pounds. It's killed 5 people already. And it's about to break out. Alligator, rated R.
Welcome back to a brand new episode of ReconCinemation. I'm your host, John Diner.
I'm David Munchak.
I'm Brent Hutchins.
And this is the podcast that takes a look back at some of our favorite films from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And we're checking out how they hold up today. And I'm going to bring the house down right off the bat.
Bringing it down.
You're bringing it down.
Dimming the lights?
We're starting.
What do you mean by bringing it down?
The lights are dim. I want the tone nice and somber here. We're going to start Shocktober just a little bit early this year, as we do pretty much every year. Shocking, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
But this is a very important episode. This episode is this goes beyond horror. It goes beyond a scary movie. It goes to something much deeper, a deep connection about fear and what it is that causes us to be afraid of something and how cinema plays into that. And we're going to look at a very important film.
John, you're killing me. Just spit it out, man. What are we watching?
Impact.
What are we talking about here?
We're going to talk about 1980s Alligator.
Oh, yes.
Not The Exorcist. Not The Shining.
Far more important entry.
Yes. With a much more global impact. Alligator.
Right. Of course.
Oh, this will be fun. This is a good one.
Yeah. What was the first time you guys saw this? Brent, we'll start with you. Alligator. When did you see it the first time?
I was a kid for sure. I don't recall exactly when it is. This is kind of one of those movies that's a little bit hazy. I, for a long time, didn't even know what the movie was. And I think it wasn't until maybe a conversation with you, John, where I was talking about a certain scene, which I know we're going to get into. And I was like, dude, this scene was crazy. And you're like, I know that movie. And you told me,
and my face went white.
Yeah, you're like, that's Alligator. And so I saw it as a kid. It was like, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know if this is just how Saturday matinee movies were back growing up or not, but I feel like creature feature-esque type movies similar to this one were a very hot commodity on those, like Food of the Gods and Empire of the Ants. Like I remember all those kind of sort of nature gone wild movies playing as a kid, and you know, this one certainly stuck out for a couple of reasons, but I honestly didn't know what it was called until college, I think, John, when you and I were getting to know each other and just talking about favorite movie scenes and stuff like that. But saw it as a kid. I don't think I saw it too many times. I think I've probably seen it a handful of times. I actually think I doubled the amount of times that I've seen it just in the last week when I watched it a few times for the record. So
it's never enough. You can never watch it enough times.
Honestly, rewatching this a couple times this past week, I kind of fell in love with this movie. I mean, it's bananas and there's a lot of nonsense, but it's like kind of a great classic little creature feature. Robert Forster is amazing. Like, it's just, there's a lot of good stuff happening here.
There is.
And a lot of very like 80s, like lo-fi shit that's going on. That's like, you got to laugh at, but also appreciate. So yeah, I mean, this is a fun one.
David, how about you? First time
It was,
watch? I'm
yeah.
just asking. I'm not getting on your case. I'm just asking.
No assumptions are being made here.
Yeah, no, I hadn't seen it till it was time to prepare for this show. And the first I did watch it, I watched it almost twice. Like I didn't really watch the ending again. But the first time around to watch it, I mean, and John of course has described legendary moments of this movie, as we'll get into.
Yes.
And so my vision of like specific scenes, like, and I'll talk, oh, it's like, oh, that's how it went. Okay, I got it. Like I can see it. I almost saw it. I saw it more and more the way you might do it a little more modern, like, and stuff, and it's like, no, you got to do it this way, because this is 1980. Like they're limited by the way the alligator design and all that stuff, but it was like, I get it. Like I get the sort of like the mystique behind it, and how it could, as a child, how to be influenced by. I was a kid, and if there were movies and it was like a monster movie and there's no stars that I was aware of, I wasn't watching that stuff. I never really watched the creature features and stuff like that. So it was always, I couldn't even say that was on my radar. Like I don't know if I since I met John, like I've known it existed, but if you quizzed me before that, I don't know if I'd be like, yeah, I don't know. I guess there's a movie called Alligator. And it's but the second time around, it was like, oh, this is like a lot better than I enjoyed it more the second time around. Like just only because it really connected how well the script is so like
It's John Sayles.
John Sayles. It's so tight. It's so tight. Like everything makes sense. Everything's there for a reason. There's no filler. There's the cheesiness there's no cheesiness written into it. Not really, like on purpose. Like it's all like there's all a genuine effort to make, a serious like satire of these monster movies. But to make it, to keep it with stakes. And yeah, so I just happened to pause it, and then I never got back to it when I was watching it the second time, and I just didn't get back to the ending. But whatever. Good stuff. Like for what it is, I couldn't believe it.
It's
now,
fun.
David, I couldn't live where you live. I couldn't do it. You know why? Because
the pool.
Your apartment is above and very close to where the pool is, right?
Yeah.
It's too close. I can't be. I would walk out of the apartment and think about it every day.
Really?
I will never go in that pool.
Is every time you see a pool, does alligator pop in your head?
Yes.
Like really? Yeah.
Yep.
Isn't that funny? Like for your entire life, like every time you see a pool.
Yeah.
For real. I mean, that scene, which John's about to dive in head first, but that scene for sure.
I jump in blindfolded next time.
Is if anybody has seen this movie, they will recognize that they have seen this movie from this particular scene. And that scene stands the test of time. Like, I mean, it honestly, it ingrains in your
the
head,
concept
man. Like,
of it. Yeah.
The concept of it is terrifying. And as a kid, we had a pool, and it very much was kind of the same sort of layout as this movie. I was terrified to go swimming in that pool after seeing that scene, especially like at night or whatever. Like you would have to drag me into that thing.
Yep.
If it was past sundown.
Yeah.
And you wanted to take me in there. That's how powerful that kind of moment is. But anyway, I know my stand the test of time comment is a little funny, but it is something that sticks with you for ages.
No, I agree. I mean, like I said, in concept, what happens in that scene is like will scare me for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
The execution, maybe not. When I watched it this time, I was like, okay, it's maybe not quite how I remember it, but still,
Sure.
it's pretty close.
Yeah, the bones of it though
yeah.
are all there.
Totally. The thought of that happening is it feels very real. I saw this. God, this was one of the first movies I ever saw, and we had it. My parents had it on Betamax. I
a
don't
sin.
know why. I
It's a
don't know.
sin. Like, put them in jail.
It's because
Put my
your
parents
parents
in jail.
They deserve to go to jail. Like, why you didn't see Snow White? Like,
Yeah.
you know, like,
I did. No,
Disney movie first.
They
Like,
had this on the same Betamax tape as Superman the movie,
Oh yeah,
which I loved.
100%. I know your parents did that on purpose because the pools in your neighborhood did not have fences, and they're like, our boy is not going to be drowning in any pool. We're going to put this right here on this tape so he sees this over and over again.
Yeah.
And he will not step close to a pool without his parents, guaranteed.
I think they should each spend 3 months in the slammer. Then
Agreed. But around the same time that I saw it, which was, I want to say 85, I'm going to say 1985. I had just seen The Black Hole as well, also starring Robert Forster. So my memories of this movie were Robert Forster, really cool, leather jacket, cool sweatshirt, jeans, great character. The alligator eating the cop, Officer Kelly,
Yep.
like grabbing him and pulling him away, and how that traumatized Robert Forster's character. And then the pool scene. The pool scene like times 100. Like that is, when I saw that was what forever made me not, it was like of the combination of that and Jaws, that I will not go in a body of water under very, very particular circumstances will I do it. Like Hawaii, where I can see everything, like the water's super clear. So if something's coming, I can have a heads up. But that's
John doesn't bathe. He doesn't shower.
Nope.
It's a good thing this is a podcast.
I'm just like
not
layered in deodorant, just layer after layer.
Caked on.
But when I was a kid and I was learning how to swim by force, I was terrible because I was just like crippled with fear and was made to go in the water, when I was in the deep end and looking into the water and learning how, like I'm on the edge of that diving board, I literally just saw the alligator with its mouth open in the water beneath me. Like that was literally what I saw. So I never dove off the diving board, still haven't. And
whoa.
If I had, then probably there would have been an alligator in there waiting for me. So
right.
Wow. So this movie has such a deep impact with me. I mean, it's Alligator, right? It's not like the most legendary movie, but in my life's history, like this is an iconic film.
It's hugely influential.
Yeah, that it definitely had an impact on, certain parts of my life. And as a kid, I went to Summer Trails Day Camp every summer, and swimming, like at all camps, is such a big part of it. And was like, nope, I'm just gonna hang on the side and let all you guys get eaten by alligators in there.
I mean, are we going to talk specifically about that scene later? Should we describe to the listeners?
Let's
come back to the scene. Let's kind of
let's get into the set pieces, right?
Yeah,
the moments.
Perfect.
Yeah,
later on. Yeah.
But I want to do something new for a change. Got a new little segment called 6 Degrees that
okay.
David, I think you're going to kick it off this time. David, pick a movie, any generation, any movie at all. And by the end of the show, Brent and I will have to connect, kind of like the Kevin Bacon game, right? Like connect Alligator to that movie within 6 moves.
Ooh, yeah. Well, I was thinking maybe something of the same year. And I went for the highest rated or highest grossing comedy of the year, 9 to 5.
9 to 5.
9 to 5.
Well, Dolly Parton's in Alligator. Just her scenes got cut. So
that doesn't count then.
No,
she's not canon.
All right. So
9 to 5.
9 to 5 to Alligator.
We'll probably pretty easy one, considering Robert Forster,
Dabney.
Dolly.
Yeah, Brent, we'll
Lily?
sidebar. We'll come back to it at the end of the show.
All right. Sounds good.
I think the audience is gambling right now. The Vegas odds are going
What are
crazy
the
about
over under?
how many moves it's going to take us to get there.
Yeah, I'm going 4. I'm just putting it out there. That's
kind of what I'm thinking.
That's the line.
If you can't do it in 4, you're worthless.
We've got 6, but we're trying to, be overachievers.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course.
All right, but let's take everybody else back in time. Let's rewind. Brent, set the table. November 1980. What's happening in the world and cinema? What's happening?
Well, let's see. November 1980 is when Ronald Reagan was elected president of the United States for the first time over Jimmy Carter. So that was a big deal right then, hitting right there. Also at the same time, we had the Iran hostage crisis, which actually started kind of in 79, but made its way all throughout 1980. And then Mount St. Helens erupted in kind of later 1980, which I remember being kind of a big deal. Even though I was super young at the time, I remember that being all over the news at that time when Mount St. Helens erupted in Washington. So that was a pretty big deal going on in the 80s or early 80s in 1980. Songs at the time, a couple of the hits: Call Me by Blondie, Another Brick in the Wall by Pink Floyd, Rock With You by Michael Jackson. All those are really popular at that time. Movies from 1980, couple big ones: Empire Strikes Back, Stir Crazy, Private Benjamin. Those are kind of top 3 of the top movies in 1980. Empire Strikes Back obviously being a massive one that
never heard of it. People
still to this day talk about. There's all sorts of subculture, Mandela effect discussions on what is said to Luke by Darth Vader, all sorts of stuff like that, which is
what?
What are you talking about?
What the fuck?
There's a bunch of people.
Does something happen in that movie?
Yes. So I don't know how much you guys are aware of this Mandela effect thing that people believe in, but it's Bernstein Bears or Bernstein Bear. There's a couple different things. One of them happens to be whether or not Darth Vader says, "Luke, I am your father," or just "I'm your father." People debate it. People remember it differently.
It's just
there's only one right answer, and all you got to do is watch the movie.
Just watch the movie.
Yeah, but people still want to talk about it.
Things are misquoted all the time, though, right?
Yeah,
all the time. Play
It Again, Sam isn't the actual quote.
I was just going to say
exactly
that,
it. Yeah. So
Kirk never said "Beam me up, Scotty." He never.
Is that right?
Yeah. Never in that order. "Beam me up, Scotty" never happened.
I didn't know that one, but that one's pretty fascinating because that's, I think the universal kind of colloquialism that people decide to use to just for that particular scene. So let's see.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So let's see what else. 1980 World Series, the Phillies beat the Royals in 1980. The Super Bowl was won by the Oakland Raiders over the Philadelphia Eagles. The Boston Celtics beat the Houston Rockets in the NBA Finals. It is actually the first championship to mark the Larry Bird era for the Celtics, which is great and also traumatizing. Being from Houston, wish the Rockets had won that game.
Lots happening in 1980. David, but take us back to the biggest thing that happened in 1980, which was the unleashing of Alligator on the world. Give us a rundown. What's happening in the movie?
Sure, yeah. Well, Alligator, we briefly mentioned, is written by John Sayles, directed by Louis Teague, and Frank Ray Perilli also was on the story. So about 12 years ago, a young Missouri girl vacationing with her family in the exotic land of Florida acquires a baby alligator named Ramon. After coincidentally witnessing a brutal maiming of
Yes.
of a human being by an alligator, and they're like, let's get a baby one of those.
Yeah.
And soon after returning home, though, the alligator's flushed down into the sewers by the dad. Can't stand having a pet alligator in the house anymore. And flash forward to the present day, and the alligator has mutated to the size of a Cadillac after eating the corpses of like small animals exposed to growth hormones in lab experiments. And a homicide detective with a prominent receding hairline takes the case as pets go missing and body parts begin showing up. And so he recruits a local herpetologist to help figure out the gator's next move. That herpetologist was the original girl who had the baby alligator, I believe.
Which I did not realize until this viewing. I never put that together, that's Robin Riker's character, a young Marissa in the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
Blew my mind.
I was theorizing it because they don't explicitly say it. I think you just have to put it together.
Well, they never say that, and you have to put it together because I think the mom, you can ID it by the mom. The actress is the same, they say her name, but like she never realizes that the alligator that's terrorizing, this city is her baby, her pet alligator.
Yeah, because for her the gator died, right? The dad was like, "Well, lie to her and tell her that it died or whatever."
And I don't
why does the dad go ape shit and throw? I mean, they don't really explain that.
Well, he mentions it was pooping like everywhere, and he got frustrated. So
that is hilarious.
Yeah, it's like the most flimsy reason to get rid of it.
There's alligator droppings in the laundry or whatever.
How big could those droppings be? That little gator was tiny.
I'm like, what's he doing in the laundry? Like, what, like this guy doesn't seem like he's doing a couple loads of laundry every day.
And you guys ever been to a gator farm? I went to Gatorland in Florida once when I was doing some work down there.
Brent, was it not clear?
Do you think
John, I got a place to take you to get you over these fears, man. I've seen a guy wrestle a gator. He did not get bit. He was very good. Yeah, put that gator right to sleep.
Yeah.
But yes.
So it is a race to save the city as a mutated Ramon feasts on police officers, big game hunters, the guests of a children's birthday party, and a super fancy wedding reception. Can he do it? We'll find out.
It's all on the shoulders of Detective David Madison.
David Madison. Wait.
Same initials as you.
And that, but then that made me realize Bruce Willis's character on Moonlight was David Addison, I believe.
Cousin, probably.
It sounds the same, so they're probably related.
Yeah. Let's talk. Let's talk about the pool sequence. Okay, let's just get that out of the way.
Okay, yeah. Well,
let's rip that Band-Aid off.
Let's rip the Band-Aid off. You're right. Because this episode is going to be about me conquering my fear. By the end of this episode, I'll be comfortable jumping in a pool.
You better jump into a pool today.
Yeah.
When you're done.
Yeah. I'm coming over to your apartment, David.
It's good. It'll be dark by the time you get here.
The mechanics of that scene is what is so chilling. I mean, it's probably 3/4 of the way through the movie. The alligator is on the loose. It's gotten out of the sewers. It's rampaging around town, and we see during the day as the police are looking for it that it goes inside the swimming pool of someone's backyard, a regular family house in the backyard. It slides into the pool and it's kind of hiding, I think, underneath some some floaty stuff, like a floating boat, and so the helicopter that's looking for it, this 36-foot long alligator,
right?
Can't find it, and it's just waiting there. Then we cut to David Madison. We see him running around trying to find it, and then it's nighttime. We cut back to this child's birthday party, and these kids are bringing out what we assume is the birthday boy, who's blindfolded, and they bring him right to the edge of the diving board, and it's
they're playing a game. It's a
They're-
pirate game. They're pirates. They're
Walk the
walking
plank.
the kid to the plank.
Yeah.
So it's pretend they're in costume. It's sure it's at night, but it's like, the kids are. I just want to set the scene. They're having fun at a party. It's a thing. The kid's smaller than the other two kids, kind of. So he's kind of like getting pushed around a little, but it's not really a full on bullying situation.
Right. Yeah.
So they make him walk the plank, right?
He looks like he's somewhat reluctantly playing along.
Yeah. This is what happens.
Yeah.
That's how you got to walk the plank. You're going to and take a dive.
And this scene is really only, I think, like 5 or 6 shots. That's it.
Yeah, I know.
It's
really
very
short.
quick. It's like 40 seconds or something.
Yeah.
And he walks to the end of the plank. One of them turns the lights in the pool on, and from the looking down from the diving board, you see the alligator like look up and open its jaws. Now, maybe it's the distortion in the water, because that was the mechanical alligator used for that scene. The movie used, we'll talk about the effects, but there was a combination of actual alligators, mini, like baby alligators, and animatronic alligators. So this was the animatronic Ramon, and that shot of just it opening its mouth and just waiting for them to push the kid in is horrifying.
It's like the Meg poster.
Yes. Yeah.
Just a big mouth.
Yeah. And then the kid's not seeing the alligator push the kid in, and we get this shot of just the jaws of the alligator just overtaking this kid, and then red blood all over the pool, and the other kids run away calling for mommy. And that's it.
And the horrifying part is the kid getting pushed in sees the gator at the last second. So he didn't, he's
I guess
aware.
that's his point of view. He's looking down, and that's what he sees.
Yeah, he notices. So he tries to stop it, but of course, he's not. But it's the last second. They just throw him over.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what's worse is he sees his death coming.
Yeah.
in the form of an alligator.
It's horrible.
Yeah,
it's horrible.
Terrible.
And I think it's like it just felt. I mean, obviously, we don't have alligators running loose. They're not going to be in our pools. But in my mind and many other people's, that stuff happens, right? Like kids play that game, and you wouldn't know if there was an alligator there. Like you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know it's there. So I don't know. That's what got inside my head, where it still resides to this day.
Wait till I send you some YouTube videos of where like snakes have come up through the toilet and people are videotaped it. Like,
oh yeah, I've seen those.
It's like you'll never want to use their bathroom again.
Well, we already know ghoulies come up through the toilet, so
true. but that if I saw that at 5 years old, I was also exposed to Jaws by that point, and I'm like, yeah, the ocean terrified me after that. Like, I mean, I got in it. I can sort of trust that if other people are in the water, we're good. But that would have definitely ruined pools for me for a little while. So I can see why that just sticks in your brain for the rest of your life.
Yeah. How do I get it out of there? How do I, maybe we're going to talk about this movie. We're going to get through it, and I'm going to exercise that demon.
Okay. This is your time.
You guys have to help me.
This is I
will help. I'll take you. We're going to go to a gator farm. Then we're going to David's pool.
Yeah. Exposure therapy.
Yep. We're going to get a little baby gator. We're going to drop it in David's pool
and watch it grow like
like one of those little capsule sponge dinosaurs that little kids
you put it in water and it just grows to 36 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that scene is just shocking. And watching it, I agree, David, it's not quite the way my memory had it, but it was pretty close. It's still pretty horrifying. Anytime you kill a kid violently like that, it's kind of like Alex Kintner in Jaws. That scene is another horrifying scene. Also, you don't really see the shark there. So you just see this kid get pulled down and blood just come exploding up out of the ocean.
Oh man, the blood thing. That's horrifying.
But it's horrifying. Brent, did you You struggled with that scene as well?
The pool scene? Hell yeah. It is. It's, I mean, as you explained, it's a terrifying and scarring and memorable scene, especially for kids who happen to be right around the same age as the kid who gets pushed in to the pool, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, prior to this movie, I'm even sure that me and my friends or my brother would play walk the plank on the diving board. After this scene, never again. Never again. Yeah, it was I mean, the scene, again, like I said earlier on, it sticks out as the, like, if, like I was saying, if anybody has seen this movie, they will recognize it from that scene, because I feel like that scene just happens to be executed so well and is leaves such an impression that you could not remember any other thing about it, which is similar to my experience with this movie. But I remembered that scene. That scene was like the beacon for me to discuss this movie and to finally uncover what it was many years later by talking about it with you.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is like it's short and sweet. It's very quick, that scene, and you don't see a lot. You really, and that's the thing I think in general with the movie. There's really isn't a huge amount of shots that have the full alligator in it.
No,
They were definitely trying to apply some of that Jaws, mentality of less is more, and not seeing it at all, getting some point of view shots of it. Like that's going to make more of an impact than, they know this animatronic alligator, you're only going to get so far with an audience. And a lot of those, bad creature feature movies are that way because it's so phony looking, and the, whatever the creature is, he doesn't hold up after a while. Whereas this movie, I think, rides a nice balance of it, and I think they push it as far as they should. And there are some shots where it's a little weak, but overall, I think it holds up as far as the actual alligator itself. What do you guys think?
Like the animatronic holds up? Is that what you're saying?
What
Oh, absolutely.
Do you think the alligator, the look of the alligator works, or does it come across as
no? It's fucking
as
great.
phony now?
No, it's really good. Like I buy. I know it's fake. I buy in the world of how they shoot it and its design and its look. Like they edit around any of the awkwardness so well that I buy what, like, that's a giant threatening alligator. Like, and I couldn't tell where it's like a gator against miniature, and I wasn't like looking for it necessarily, but I was like, oh yeah, they couldn't just rely on one thing. So I think for what it is, for 80s, for 1980, and the suspension of disbelief, like, no, it's actually really well done. The robot and the effects and the puppets and whatever, it looks fantastic. Like,
yeah, I think you have a strong mix of talent behind this movie that is helping with this. Like, they know what they're doing. I mean, a lot of them are still in the early part of their career, but would go on to prove that they're good filmmakers who know how to tell a story, and they knew what to show and what not to show here. With between John Sayles and Louis Teague, and I would say this is one of Bryan Cranston's greatest cinematic efforts.
Go ahead and explain that.
How many people
Please.
know that Bryan Cranston is involved in this movie? This movie was Bryan Cranston's very first PA job.
A friend of a friend said they're shooting a movie in LA and they need production assistants. So I said, oh, maybe that's a new path that I can take. I'm tired of being an extra and I want to learn something new. So I applied, and basically I was alive and willing, so I was hired. And it was Alligator.
Bryan Cranston's had a long and very fascinating career. We've talked about him a couple of times actually recently. Here he starts as a PA. He's trying to act. He couldn't get his acting career going, so he switches over to being a production assistant and gets kind of saddled with the special effects department. And he had no idea what he was doing. But when you're a production assistant on your first couple of jobs, you don't really know anything, and you're just kind of learning everything and learn it by doing. So his job was to fill the alligator's guts up. So when the shot where it blows up, spoiler alert, at the end, everything that like explodes out of it, that was all, he was the one packing all that stuff.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think he learned a hell of a lot on this project, and he talks about it openly. He's done several interviews. He's not shy about it, that he's, everyone has to start somewhere, and you remember your first jobs in this business. They're usually very vivid. And he tells of a story of like riding, he was in a van going from parking to set, and there was like one seat open, and somebody comes banging on the door, and it's Robert Forster, and Robert Forster sits down next to him, and he just, the whole ride to set, like they were just kind of like chit-chatting, and Robert Forster was a big star at that time in Cranston's mind, especially. So fast forward to 2017, I think, or 16, or whenever the last season of Breaking Bad.
I think it's
14, maybe. Yeah, maybe before. The last season of Breaking Bad, when Robert Forster's cast on the show, Bryan Cranston comes up to him and says, they say hello, and obviously they know who each other are now. And Forster was like, "Have we met before?" And Cranston's like, "We have, actually." Like, "What movie did we work on?" He's like, "Well, I wasn't an actor, but we worked on Alligator together. I was the PA, and we rode in a van together." He's like, do you remember that?" And Robert Forster's like, "No." But it's
funny.
cool that the beginning of Cranston's career starts on this movie, and one of the very last roles by Robert Forster was in a Bryan Cranston project. So
yeah,
that is cool. Full circle.
Yeah. But going back to Alligator, though, so comparing this and Jaws, like Jaws is obviously one of the biggest movies of all time. Certainly one of the top movies of the 70s, coming out in 75. Here we are in 1980. Like all things that are big hits, there's going to be a slew of imitators out there, and Jaws is no different. That there's tons of creature, we'll keep calling them creature features, that monsters on the loose, on the attack. A cop has to stop it. Where does this one, for you guys, kind of rank for you? Is it up there? Is it down? Are there better ones than this? How does it hold up in the formula?
Like as far as creature feature formula is concerned, because like
the
those
story,
go back to like the 50s, like with the Blob, and like,
I mean, comparing specifically
like
to
that.
the Jaws formula.
Jaws being the best that maybe was ever made.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, arguably, but I think it would be hard
What about
to find
Alien?
another one.
What about Alien?
I mean, Alien is good as well.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Totally different style, but yeah.
Also in the argument. But yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I don't know. Like, where does Alligator rank? Alligator's great. It's a lot of fun. I mean, there are so many of these movies, like it's hard to really, I mean, like you could consider from just back in the 70s, there's, Orca,
Orca, yep.
About
Orca.
which is about obviously a killer whale. You've got Grizzly, which is about a bear. I mean, there's literally every single thing that you could. I mean, there's the ones that I mentioned earlier, Food of the Gods, which is about rats and other animals that are also like fed by toxic waste. And in that vein, you got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, there's so many different things that you could link back to this. So it's difficult. It would be a very big list to kind of rank them all. But Alligator is a shit ton of fun and a very like funny and exciting and well done movie. like I don't think it's anywhere near on the same tier as like a Jaws or an Alien, but as far as like the B-rated, the kind of the B versions of these, like, yeah, it's top notch.
Yeah, well, Alien is like, I mean, another iconic film, but it's got its own visual style, and it's really its own thing, and it's breaking new ground in a different way.
Sure.
Jaws 2, Piranha, or a couple other ones. Piranha also written by John Sayles.
Yeah.
Alligator, I mean, it doesn't do anything new on top of the genre other than our favorite pool scene.
Yeah.
But
Right.
but it certainly, I think, as a story structure, keeps it tight. Everything to me, everything was, for the world that they set up, was fairly logical. I mean, the whole growth hormone storyline's a bit of a stretch, but in that, like, how it gets to the alligator and what happens with the alligator, that it just grows over 12 years to that size. But the story wise, I think it works. It makes sense.
I think this is how Chud became a movie. So anybody who doesn't know what Chud is, check that out. Cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers.
Oh boy.
Another 80s classic.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
I mean, it's like watchable, like, and rewatchable. Like you could,
yeah,
you can watch this, have fun. You could come back to it years later. Like, some of these are not watchable. Like, you will not want to watch them again. But again, there's literally hundreds, that have been made since the 50s. Just in that creature feature kind of category of movie. I mean, and even things like Hitchcock's The Birds, like, I mean, all of those can like be sort of loosely nature versus man, nature's gone wild type films that can all kind of be loosely related. So it's the list is vast, right? But this one is good. It's a good one. Like, I would watch this. I'd probably, and look, I'm not saying that it's a better movie than The Birds. But, and I think
it's okay if you said.
I mean, Alfred Hitchcock is one of my favorite directors of all time ever. And I would probably prefer to watch Alligator than I would The Birds. In comparison. But I think The Birds gets a lot more critical acclaim because of Hitchcock.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He was doing something innovative, right?
Sure. That. I mean, yeah, like, there's things that, like, there are some of these movies that are groundbreaking, right? Like Jaws, Alien. I think The Birds is probably in that category.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's making a legitimate threat out of something like Birds is hard to do, and he did it. I mean, The Birds is another iconic film.
Yeah, I mean, and even like Stephen King with Cujo, right? Like, Cujo is similar, I mean, it's
also directed by Louis Teague, which we'll talk about in a minute.
That's right, same director.
Jeez, wow.
But I think you set up your creature in the first scene of the film, then you cut to your police officer, your main character, and you build them up, and then you get your first, the first attack where we reintroduce the creature again, and then how the detective or the police officer or whoever is gonna start working that case, and the danger gets ratcheted up throughout the film, and then it's gonna have a big climactic showdown, and that's your basic formula. Not too complicated, but it's amazing how many movies got really off track with it, and whether it's just really bad effects, or you can tell it's got no budget, not having the right actors, not having the right director, and it's very quickly can create a terrible film. And this, I think, avoids all that it's got good storytellers involved all the way through, and one of them being, let's talk about Louis Teague, our director. So going back behind the scenes, producer Brandon Chase is the first person involved with this project. He hires, he had another writer kind of write this script that ends up getting completely thrown out by Louis Teague when he comes on board. Now, Louis Teague had been a second unit director on the movie Avalanche, where he briefly worked with Robert Forster, and they hit it off. And Forster had said, like, if you're ever doing your movie, like, give me a call, let me know. I'd love to chat about it. In the meantime, Teague directs The Lady in Red, which was written by John Sayles, so they kind of have a connection as well. So when he comes on Alligator, he takes everything that's in the script except the alligator and completely throws it out. We'll keep the alligator and that's it.
Nice.
So he calls John Sayles to come in and like write it from scratch as quickly as possible. And I think he wrote it in about 2 weeks. And so Sayles is really the one that is creating the, using the Jaws formula like he did with Piranha and applying it to a different creature in a different setting. And I think that's part of really why it works so strong, is this combination of Louis Teague and John Sayles. Now, Louis Teague is a director who's done at least one other movie that we've covered and a few other movies that we will cover someday in the future on ReconCinemation. We covered Navy SEALs back in Bill Paxton Fest in season 3, I believe. So check that out in the archives at ReconCinemation.com. And some of Louis Teague's other films, Cujo, Cat's Eye, and Jewel of the Nile, we're definitely going to hit those down the road.
Cat's Eye, yes.
We did Romancing the Stone, so it means we have to cover Jewel of the Nile.
Of course.
That's fair, but we've also got to do Cat's Eye.
Yeah.
And while we're at it, another one that I would like kind of double feature with it is like Trilogy of Terror, if we could.
Yeah, for sure. On a future Shocktober. John Sayles is like I think one of Hollywood's greatest writers, and he may not be a household name now, but he has done some, amazing work. He got started in the horror genre with Piranha, the Alligator, and the Howling for director Joe Dante. But, he branched out and did 8 Men Out. He did Lone Star. He's done some really, really great films that, and I believe he directed as well, but he is just a fantastic writer and really shook off that horror, the stigma of the horror genre. So he didn't get kind of stuck with that label for the rest of his career. So smart guy, businessman, and just great artist. And he's the one who also used the urban legend of people flushing baby alligators down the toilet and took that and kind of ran with it to get his story started here. And he's mixing some other things that were a big concern in the early 80s and ever since, really, like the toxic waste kind of craze that was happening then, and getting out about animal experimentation, what was going on and how cruel it was. So he took all those kind of elements and merged them together into one 36-foot long alligator. And I think it works great. It's like, it really does have some, Jaws had the, sub story or the theme of local politics and how that works. And this one has got, big pharma and, commentary on that about, what is big pharma doing to, medicine and what they're kind of forcing on people, and what's the after effect of that. And, toxic waste just kind of being an extreme concern at that time.
Yeah, you gotta love, like, it went from, like aliens in Roswell, and and then atomic bomb, aliens, nuclear power, toxic waste, fluoride in the drinking water, chemtrails, flat Earth,
chemtrails. Yep.
Yeah,
we're moving to there's always
Antarctica.
There's always just fun, like culturally significant, like panics that come and go. And I think Jaws created that panic too, of like some people didn't want to go to the beach after that.
Yep.
They weren't
Yep.
going to go in the water.
I think a lot of people didn't want to go to the beach after Jaws.
Summer of '76 was a very quiet beach year.
So but yeah, like to get on the sort of the mutation, lab experiment mutations, it works perfectly. It's so tight. Everything is so tight, and everything you need is like in the first like 15 minutes of the movie.
Yeah,
it's right there.
Yeah. Everything has a reason for happening in this story. That we meet Sidney Lassick, or we see Robert Forster going to buy a dog from Sidney Lassick's pet shop.
Yeah. By the way, $15.90 for a dog. Okay, listen, I don't know if anybody's done any dog shopping recently. First of all, if you're going to get a dog, go ahead and do a rescue. But if you were to go to a breeder or to a pet shop, which is crazy, you're going to spend $2,000 to $5,000 on a dog.
Oh,
not $15.90. I'll tell you that much for what looked like, a pure breed Yorkshire Terrier, which those dogs are awesome.
Yeah.
Out of my entire life, love them.
So we meet Sidney Lassick, and who many people will remember from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, as this pet shop owner who's also stealing pets off the street or out of yards, we can imagine, and he is giving them to the Slade Corporation?
Slade,
yeah, that is doing experimenting on these growth hormones on all these poor animals that they're trying to see how it's obviously going to be affected. And I remember, was it Project X? That was a movie that 1987, I think,
with Matthew Broderick.
Yes. So when that came out, that was like the first thing that really put it on my radar about animals being experimented on and just tortured and killed.
Yeah. That was a sad movie.
Sad
Love that movie.
Yeah.
Definitely do not get it confused with the party movie from like 2012 or whenever. There's another movie called Project X where it's
very different.
It's like a high school party movie. Not the same one.
Mm-hmm.
Not the same one.
Yeah. So another like really sad thing for a kid to watch this movie of like these poor dogs who are just adorable, who are being brought to their horrible deaths at this corporation. But so he's got to go out there and find more dogs for the Slade Corporation, and in the meantime take the dead carcasses of the old dogs and get rid of them. And what does he do? He brings them down to the sewer where he's been bringing them for years, which is how the alligator survived, on eating lots of things in the sewer. But the baby alligator from the opening scene ate whatever was down there, a lot of which was toxic waste and these chemically altered pets, which once it got in its system is how it got to grow so large, much larger than a regular alligator. So that's the backstory. We see Sidney Lassick dumping these dead dogs into the sewer, and it gets jammed. It gets like clogged on something. He's got to clear it up, and we get the famous point of view shot, the alligator as it eats Sidney Lassick. Yeah. And then we get to spend some time with the amazing Robert Forster, who at this point in his career has already done Medium Cool. He's done Reflections in a Golden Eye. So he had a very big start to his career in the late 60s, and then is kind of bouncing around and does Disney's The Black Hole in 79 right before this. That's a huge movie. So it's interesting that he does Alligator right after The Black Hole.
Is that like counter programming?
Yeah, it kind of feels like it, right? Like
a little bit.
Yeah. But I think he's also like the kind of actor. I mean, we did a deep dive into Robert Forster back in our Jackie Brown episode last year. You can check that out in the archives at ReconCinemation.com. We all have a lot of love for Robert Forster and what a great actor he was, and whatever part he played. I mean, after Jackie Brown, he had a career renaissance, but he was really kind of all over the place before that. And he's only a few years removed from Delta Force at this point, coming in 85 or 86. where he's the villain, the ethnic villain. So,
Right.
yeah. But yeah, I think he just saw, like, if he was just attracted to something in the role or something in the movie, he would do it. To the kind of working against himself in some ways.
Yeah, a little bit, but he's so good.
Yeah, he kept it tight. He's a solid performer. He's such a perfect personality. You almost think like he could be like a real character guy, but he had that leading man kind of gravitas.
Yeah.
He had that extra it factor. So a pleasure to watch in anything he does.
Well, and he took a character that could be kind of a joke, and he actually like gave him some layers that he's traumatized from the incident that happened prior to this film with his partner getting killed with his own weapon, on his watch. So
yeah.
He feels responsible for that. He was kind of shunned from his cop community. So he doesn't like to work with partners. He likes to work alone. He's losing his hair, and Robert Forster actually had gotten a hair transplant, not hair transplant, but hair plugs, just prior to the movie. So that was like a real thing that he brought that into the script, that like, let's work that into the character.
Wow.
That's great.
So,
wow.
Yeah, he brought that in, and that's a common thread about, they're always like talking about the fact that he's losing his hair and what he could do with it to hide it, and he doesn't really, it's like he doesn't really care. But it's kind of came across kind of funny watching it this time, and I didn't remember that little plot line at all.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. It feels honestly a little, because he's having that conversation with Sydney in the pet shop, and it's like, it's a little strange. You're like, what? It feels a little out of place, but now it makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
Knowing that it was kind of due to that.
Yeah. I think, he was at a point in his life where he kind of couldn't avoid it.
Right.
Until that he got it all finished. But so he had to roll with it. But it gives the character some, I don't know, something to play with and something fun. And there's something so likable about Robert Forster in this role. Like, even though he's dealing with a horrible situation, when he has those one-on-one moments with Marissa, like, you just like him.
Yeah,
for sure.
He seems like a very he can act, and he gave this character a lot of like sort of genuineness, like authenticity. Something like that. There's just, he seems like a real guy. He's not a character in this movie. He's like a real dude.
Right. Like, you could see him being a real, and you could like tell, like, he's a good cop. Like, he's that when the bomber comes into the office, like, he takes him down in a very like clever way. So
yeah. Well, I mean, both his character in this and in Jackie Brown, just going to that, like, they're both like very kind of modest and also, and like down to earth and, like grounded. And so like, yeah, they're really both characters you find yourself attached to and like kind of rooting for in both cases pretty quickly and easily.
Yeah. And we meet, so he's basically our Chief Brody, right? In this, if you're going to compare it to Jaws, he's going to be the Roy Scheider character.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
And
you sure he's not Dreyfus?
No, that would be Robin Riker, who plays Marissa, the older Marissa, who's more of your, what would you say her job was?
She's a lizard person, right?
Yeah, she's a herpetologist.
Yeah.
So yeah, like David said, she's a lizard person.
Is that what they are though?
Yeah,
not in the conspiracy theory kind of way, lizard person. Since we were talking about conspiracies earlier, just to be clear.
Ever since she lost that baby alligator, she studied lizards and studied, alligators, and she knows once it gets out, we kind of skipped over the fact that David Madison gets called to the crime scene because there are now body parts starting to show up, and they get an indication that it's an alligator doing this. So that's how she gets involved. That she points out, like, this is an alligator bite. So that's what. And then we see the chief of, or the I think he's the chief of police, Michael Gazzo, who was Frankie Pantangeli in The Godfather Part 2.
Oh, right.
Oscar nominated for that film. Here he is in Alligator. So, and he's the police captain that is always on David Madison's case. But then Madison goes into the sewers with young rookie cop Kelly to investigate what's going on. And there's that weird shot where Kelly grabs Madison on the ass.
Like a real
Yeah,
like
Really
takes a
grabbed it.
Yeah.
He's-
It didn't even growl. Like, it's like, what?
like, this is pranking.
Yeah.
This is a prank.
Credit card.
We got him. But there was one shot I caught that actually scared the hell out of me. So as the two of them are going in that tunnel, you can see on the landing, like the same landing where Sidney Lassick was dropping those dogs.
Mhm.
When they walk by that, the alligator's just standing there. Like I never caught that before, and that got me. That got me because it's just it could get them right there, and it just doesn't.
Wow.
It's just playing with its food.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And then as they eventually confront the alligator, and as they're trying to get out, they can't get the manhole off of the sewer cover, and Kelly is ripped down and torn apart by the alligator. And those shots are like it's a through line for the rest of the story that's traumatizing to Madison, that he lost another partner. He's gonna not just that he's gonna get blamed and made fun of by the other cops again, but he actually, like, this young guy died on his, like, there was nothing he could do about it.
Yeah, he loses another partner, especially like because it is like a little thing. You think he's already been eaten before he comes and does his little grab ass prank.
Yeah,
so it's almost like, oh no. And then but to witness, like, trying to get up through there and then see him get like come through and then get pulled away, and it's like bloody, and it's like, oh no. Like, and that mobilizes endless amounts of, like, they're like, all right, they're going to hit the sewers, endless amount of cops, National Guard comes and helps. They got to take down this thing. They do like one sweep. We're going to drag it out. It's not in there. Everyone go home. That's it. We're done.
Yeah.
There's always like, there's these elements of like the city corruption or the city laziness of things like that, Well, all right, we trusted you, but it's gone nowhere. We still have a dead police officer,
right?
But we're not going to keep looking anymore. But then the thing escapes. But it's like minutes later, it escapes through like through a vent, in the sidewalk, and then now it's on the surface. So it doesn't really matter.
No, not just that. It explodes up out of
yeah.
Like, and that's like the one sequence that I think didn't age well, because you can tell that's a miniature set. And a small, it's not a baby alligator, but it's a very small, alligator that they used. I don't know what material they used for the street, but it explodes from the sewers up into the street level. And, these kids are playing stickball around it. And it just like, then it's like totally on the loose. Yeah. And now that it's gotten out and escaped, David Madison and Marissa have, which is your Hooper character. So your Brody and Hooper are working together, trying to study the alligator. Where would it be? Where would it go? What's its next move going to be? How can we catch it? But if you ever want to see Hooper and Brody get romantic, then this is your movie.
This is the one. Yeah.
This is it.
Finally.
I think Robin Riker's great. I think people from our generation would recognize her from probably every single major television show of the 1980s. She was one of those people that would show up for like an episode or two of everything.
Yeah.
And I used to confuse her with Meg Foster from They Live. I don't know why. They don't really look alike, but as a kid, I kind of mixed them up. Meg Foster's got those,
the blue
amazing eyes,
ice blue eyes. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think Robin Riker's great. Like I totally buy her, and I buy their chemistry, and I think they like work really well together. I think there should have been a spinoff of just them as a married couple on a sitcom,
Yeah,
and still call it Alligator, and just not have an alligator.
Alligator the series, and it's a 3
Yeah.
camera family.
Oh god,
It's about
sitcom.
his penchant for getting alligator shoes and belts, and so yeah, so they're trying to figure out where it's going, where what's happening. Meanwhile, the mayor, along with the head of the Slade Corporation, played by Dean Jagger as Slade, bring in the quint of the movie, which is our very own Henry Silva from Megaforce,
Unbelievable.
as Colonel Brock. Henry Silva hitting a grand slam yet again here.
all he does, he's the DH. They bring him in. They just he's the pinch hitter.
Yep. I mean, he cracked me up in this. Like now, after Megaforce, I have a hard time taking him seriously in some of these movies, and he's just got such an interesting mannerism and that very recognizable face, and the pitch of his voice is a lot higher than I remembered it being, and he's got a scene with an ABC news reporter played by Sue Lyon in her final film role, and that was of course she played Lolita in Stanley Kubrick's Lolita, where he's doing this weird kind of flirtatious thing, like making alligator sounds at her. That's a really bizarre scene.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
It's very uncomfortable.
It is. It's really uncomfortable in the modern day.
Yeah.
Like it probably then was too, but
Yeah.
that was probably more for laughs, because he is like kind of this eccentric guy, like, so it is just like what's his angle, like, is he he's clearly flirting, but like, is this just how he talks to all women all the time?
Probably. Women like those alligator sounds.
Yeah.
Yep.
Try some of those out, see how that works.
It works for me every time.
40% of the time it works 100% or whatever.
That's how I always woo you, John.
So he's the big, Colonel Brock is the big game hunter who's going to find and take out the alligator. And it's funny because he really doesn't last that long in the movie.
Oh,
he's only a couple of scenes, and his demise like kind of cracked me up this time. That he's got these like gang members maybe that he bought alcohol for, and they're going to be like his helpers. I think
what's wrong with what could possibly go wrong with that plan?
I know, like, so you're just gonna randomly pick people to like you wouldn't have a team. Like, where's like Twister, Carrie Elwes had like a team with him. Where's that team?
No, that is beyond 80s sensibilities.
I know, true. You need a guy in the van. You need a weapons guy. You need or gal.
Absolutely.
But he finds the alligator like in this alley, right? But the alligator's hidden in newspaper and trash and is just kind of waiting there. He knows it's there, but I don't think he knows exactly where it is. And then when he's right next to it, it pops out and just gets him.
Gotcha.
And then he's begging for help, and the gang members just run away. They pick up his gun, run away, and then we just watch him get swallowed.
Yeah, just swallowed.
Yep.
That's it.
That's it.
Unbelievable.
One of the few times you see the full alligator.
Yeah, he was the reinforcements, and the alligator just disposed of him.
Yeah. And then, the alligator's on the loose. We get our pool scene that we've already kind of covered here. And then it gets to the big party going on at Slade's mansion, where the mayor's there, all the important city bigwigs are there. Also, all the people we've seen from the corporation doing the experiments are all there. Yeah. And the alligator goes on a rampage. And I think this is where where the alligator falls apart for me. A little bit, yeah.
Like the effects here. I'm almost positive at one point you see it roll into the scene like on
like
like a dolly and casters. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is not framed well.
Yeah, yeah, but this is like when you look for gifs of Alligator, like this stuff from this scene is what you see, where it's just
Right.
going wild with people in tuxedos like flying across. It's like I don't know how it would kill so many people so quickly, but it does.
It's a giant alligator.
Yeah.
Don't question that, John.
Well, there's a lot of hitting of people with the tail and
The
all
tail.
that, and
Yeah.
but people are flying through the air. Like they did some nice stunt work for
Great stuff.
as for the physical challenge of it. And then one guy, he's supposed to fall in the pool, and so he runs and flies, and then he lands like on his back, and he comes this close to bashing his head on the side of the I'm like, oh my god,
that was the scariest part of the movie.
that was
shot.
frightening.
That
Like,
stunt guy could have almost killed himself. But
yeah, that would have been, oh my gosh. Like, I'm sure they practiced it and all that, but like, I am sure he just was just a bit short and got really lucky there.
yeah,
That's but yeah, no, like, I like that. I like the ongoing sort of menace and murder and all of that. And like, I'm not one for like, I like stuff cut because it's cheesy, like at all. Like I didn't see I saw a lot of earnestness in it. I mean, I know, I think the gator design is so good, like because I think you can, because of the way you can color and texture, the texture of an alligator body and the look, and it's very ancient, reptilian looking. Like it's a lot more interesting, say, than like a big gray shark, right? Like there's just so many features about it. So you can get caught up in just the design of the alligator, and then they're running around, everyone's screaming, and the blood's fake, but it's like whatever. So I don't think it's like cheesy enough. I get it. Like, yeah, there's some of the way they shoot it and have to edit around it. Can pull you out a little bit, but I was actually like really impressed with it. Like compared to what we can and have seen in creature kind of features and stuff.
Yeah.
I just think like, oh, this actually works a lot better than I thought. I thought this was going to be like terrible. And I don't think Louis Teague is going to settle for less than great.
Yeah. Well, that's when you have a director who's he's a quality director. Like he is going to go on to make big movies, and it starts here that he's not going to accept a low quality on that, on the creature. I mean, it's as best as they could do, with what they had and the budget that they had. But yeah, and just going back to that party, everyone there are the real villains of the movie. It's this corporation and the mayor who are corrupt, and the alligator is like getting revenge for the audience, really, that you want to see those people get killed. And when he corners Slade in his limousine and just somehow crushes the limousine with his tail and by thrashing around on it, you can't really see what the alligator is doing. You get quick close-ups of its tail and everything, and then the car is just crushing. And I don't know, you kind of feel vindicated a little bit that like these are the guys who caused this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So they're getting what they deserved.
The only one missing is the dad who originally flushed the alligator down the toilet.
Yeah. That dad is gone. We see Marissa's mother when David Madison goes back home with her, but we don't see the father. Yeah, and she doesn't, and Marissa never one-on-one like confronts the alligator either. She's never in the same place with it. So
yeah,
there's a moment lost there. You could have had that scene where she realized like that's alligator.
Ramon.
Yeah.
Ramon.
I forgot Ramon. Yeah.
But then you'd have to give the female character even more to do, even though she's like important to the story. But it's like,
yeah,
we can't give her like a real character moment.
I know, right? Yeah.
She's not the lead. I mean, she's got a lot going on in the movie. That's the thing. It's like you can't spend an extra 5 minutes pepper in like this sort of this part of her backstory.
Yeah.
But it may not work. It may not flow. Maybe they shot something with it and it didn't work.
I think that being said, like for the time, I think they did give her a lot to do. She had a character to play. She wasn't,
Yeah.
she's the brains, like she's the smart person who's helping figure it all out with Madison, and
Yeah.
doing just as much as he is.
Yeah, it's just funny, like why leave out this one connection? I guess
Yeah.
maybe it's not important. It doesn't really matter, right? You put it together yourself.
Well, if you had that scene, it probably would have come out cheesy
Mm.
and
Like,
might feel
yeah.
forced. Like
Mhm.
she wouldn't know, and she shouldn't be confronted with this thing because she's not trying to go to where the danger is, but
Right.
Madison's going to. So,
Yeah,
Well,
the cheesy explanation that would have been done is like, oh, the baby alligator had like some kind of marking or scar on it that
Yeah.
as it grew, she recognized, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
you don't need that. Like
Yeah.
that's
Right.
garbage.
No, that's exactly it. I think it's like it's not germane to the story to like have that, but to like the little girl version of her, she said if you flip it on its back, it'll fall asleep, which is a real thing. Like that can happen to alligators. If you that's how you can subdue one. If you can get it on its back, it basically can't move, uh, and it's gonna pass out and give up. So I'm like, oh well, that the little girl version of her knows that, so they're gonna try to use that. So it's like, no, what's the point? You can't. You want it ripping apart the bad people, like, and so those little moments of like, what are they setting up, or the connections, and it doesn't really matter. But it's a nice flavor because if you're paying attention, you've got it. It's
Yeah.
there. Like,
So
and it's like this. It's just the unnamed town in Missouri. They're not even in St. Louis. They shoot the whole thing in L.A.
Mhm.
yeah,
Which is
but
great.
it's all supposed to be set in Missouri, right? He's
Yeah,
a Chicago cop who's now in like near St. Louis or something.
yeah, like because where his original partner died was in St. Louis. Like you learn in the press conference, so you can sort of assume he moves to a different, town. And because like I checked, like the newspapers, they're all like generic newspapers. They don't have a city name or anything like that. So it's this gigantic sprawling metropolis that isn't St. Louis, and looks a lot like LA, but it's shot just so you're never going to see a palm tree or too many
Yeah.
mountains. Like,
Right.
it's really well done. You don't have to use the glamour of LA. So anyway,
So then they end up, Madison ends up luring the alligator back down into the sewer, where what is it? How does walk us through what happens with the bomb?
well, the methane packet or whatever pockets that's one of the dangers of the sewer, and we learned that in his
Right.
first adventure out there.
Yep.
And then the bomb timer and some dynamite he steals from the locker after he loses his job.
Yeah.
And he was going to just go hunting himself.
Yeah, he gets fired because he's screwed up, basically, or taking the blame for some of this.
Yeah, well, like, because the bad guy shut him down. Like, his investigation is going to get him too close. So the Slade Corporation calls the mayor calls the chief fires Madison. And so his ultimate goal is to like lure the thing back down, back to where his newest partner or colleague was murdered, and blow it up because he's got dynamite.
So that plan is all working until the manhole that he's trying, his escape route is blocked by a car that's sitting right on top of the manhole.
Oh, the tension.
So great tension at the end that the bomb's going to go off. He's got to get out of the sewer, and now this car is blocking him from getting out. But of course, the lovely Marissa shows up just in time to get the car to move and pulls him out of the sewer just as it explodes, and we see Bryan Cranston's lovely special effects work blow up all out of the alligator.
And they saved the city.
They saved the city, except for the fact that we end with the shot of another baby alligator getting dropped down into the sewer, who we imagine will, eat whatever's left of the first out of Ramon, and then we'll have the whole cycle will begin again.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, oh man. And then
Powerful
hence,
ending.
Hence the sequel, Alligator 2. The
Exactly.
Mutation.
Yeah. Yep.
oh man,
Yeah.
of course you can go right into a sequel on this.
Yeah,
Well-
it took them 11 years. But,
yeah, it's what 91 it comes out, Alligator
Yeah.
2. And they tried to get Louis Teague back, and they brought it up with him, but by then he had grown on to be a big director and didn't want anything to do with it. So, and it's basically Alligator 2 is basically the same movie. It really just is a rinse and repeat of this movie. So, not really much of a need.
without Robert Forster.
Yeah, with I think Joseph Bologna is the
Bologna, D. Wallace. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very similar people, but not quite the same. We love D. Wallace.
We do.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's Alligator. It
is great. Check it out. You got to watch it.
It's a fun movie, except for the pool scene.
Terrifying.
When the alligator is walking and it's a pure profile shot and it's hunting him and the camera just follows with it. Is that a real alligator? It's a real alligator, right?
Well, you're sort of looking over its shoulder, like
no, it's straight going like this, and the camera's with it. And...
I think that's the small alligator. That's the live one. Yeah.
Okay. Because
when you see the full body of it moving like that, that's the actual. I don't know what the size of it was. Obviously, nowhere near the size of this, but
it's a real one.
Right.
It has to be. Because I was trying to see. I could see. I'm like, you can almost see like maybe human arms doing the front legs, but the back legs, I'm like, there's no fucking way. Like that. No. I think that's the creature. Like that's
no, that was the real one. So it's the shots where you're kind of like looking over what its shoulder would be. The closest thing to an over the shoulder shot you can do with an alligator. Like that's the animatronic. All the close-ups are the animatronic.
Sure.
Yeah, I just was trying to like, I don't know. I couldn't tell if like, whoa, is the puppet like that good? Like they figured out how to do the range of motion that well, and like, nah, it's just a regular, just a regular alligator.
But I think this is, like we mentioned earlier, it successfully applies the Jaws formula. So if you're looking for a movie like Jaws, but you've seen Jaws a million times, check out Alligator, because there's a lot of fun stuff in here, and if you're a Robert Forster fan, it's also a must watch. I really do think it's one of his most fun roles of his career.
Yeah, I agree. If you want to be as afraid of a pool as you are of the ocean, definitely check this out.
Yeah. Do you want to get revenge on, people doing animal cruelty? This movie has that too for you.
Yeah, there's some justice here.
Yeah. All right. Should we take a look at the box office and see how we did with a little box office glory?
Yeah.
Let's.
Well, there's actually not too much information to be had out there. Not to take the wind out of the sails, but not a lot of information. This had a $1.75 million budget. It was shot in Los Angeles, as David mentioned. Released on November 14th, 1980. I think it was the only release that week. It ended up with a $6.49 million domestic run. So
nice.
That's a success. Yeah. I mean, it tripled its money right there.
Yeah.
It ends up at number 84 of 1980 between the Gong Show movie.
Never seen it?
Nope. Never seen it. Didn't know they made it. Barely remember the Gong Show. And another horror classic, Motel Hell.
Oh, okay.
I feel like I am familiar with that one, but I don't know why.
I'm sure you've seen it. If you want to learn a little bit more about it, check out our good friend E.K. Wimmer and his podcast, Laser Graves. They did an analysis of it a while back. It was a lot of fun.
I will take a listen.
As Brent, you mentioned earlier, tops at the box office in 1980 is The Empire Strikes Back, Stir Crazy, and Kramer versus Kramer. so interesting looking back at, a decade like the 80s and what some of the top movies were some of these years compared to what are the top movies now. Because now it's just like Marvel, Star Wars, one of those,
Empire Strikes Back falls right in line with that.
Yeah, but I mean, look at the other two, Stir Crazy and Kramer versus Kramer. Like the fact that we've talked about it also, 1987, the number one movie of the year was Three Men and a Baby. Like that would not happen now. No way in hell.
Yeah.
So interesting. But the Alligator ends up getting a huge amount of TV play, like you mentioned, Brent, seeing it on the afternoons on the weekends. I remember seeing it on WWOR TV. I want to say it was the Sunday afternoon movie, like many, many times. And of course, as soon as I realized it was Alligator, that channel clicker was going for me.
Never again.
Yep.
You called the cable company to cancel.
Yeah. Complain.
Get rid of this channel.
Yeah.
Block this channel. Your parents had the key so they can turn on and off WWR and
that's right.
Yeah, but I had to watch the Mets games, so
well,
back when I was a Met fan. But
Daryl Strawberry days.
Oh yeah, this is early 80s and mid 80s. The 86 Mets, come on.
86 Mets beat the 86 Astros in the damn playoffs. We're not even going to talk about that.
We won't. But, so they did make a sequel, but they also made a tabletop game that was very much like Hungry Hippos.
I was going to say, that's what it should be like. That's
very similar to Hungry Hippos, but it's like you can look up the commercial on YouTube and it looks like that, but it's, I guess it was a big enough movie. They had some mild marketing campaign going. So
funny.
I bet you can buy that game for like $6,000 on.
Why do I feel like I've played that before? Like little green alligators instead of hippos, right?
Yeah, I think it's like I think it's like one big alligator.
Oh, okay.
I think we need to get it. I think we need to get the board game and we'll do a live show where we just play it.
Put an intern. We'll put an intern on it. Let's go.
I think, I think maybe we should make an Alligator 3. Maybe there's room for an Alligator 3 and we do a direct callback to the first movie. I think maybe it's time.
What was
David Madison's son or daughter or
David Madison's tombstone is in a field and we zoom in on it, gets close, and then it's crushed by a giant lizard. It's like revenge is here.
Marissa Robin Riker's still going, so we can we can certainly bring her back. I think I see a path to this story.
I think Timothy Chalamet could play the next Madison.
Definitely. Yeah.
He's got that. He's very Robert Forster.
Scarlett Johansson is the police captain now.
Yeah.
Well, did any of you see the 2019 movie Crawl?
I did not, because of my fear of the movie Alligator.
It's pretty good. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I did not need that in my life again. So
I did not see that.
It's not Alligator.
Oh,
I mean, there's
an
alligator, but it's
David's pretty afraid from the poster.
The poster, nope.
Yeah,
they were here first. Oh no.
Yeah, I skipped that intentionally, but I heard great things, and it did, I think, very well. So.
Yeah, I liked it. I saw it at the theater. Good one. It's fun.
But
Barry Pepper.
Barry Pepper.
Yeah, always a winner.
Yep.
I do like that guy.
All right. Well, this is just the beginning of Shocktober. We have a really fun lineup coming up. The next few episodes, we're going to have special guests galore coming back to look back at Nightmare on Elm Street 4, Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. And of course,
we're getting in the good shit.
Yeah, and Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers.
And then there's that.
We're in a whole mix of right in the middle zone of all of the Freddy, Jason, and Michael Myers universes. So
the dog days of the franchise.
Yeah. Maybe we're at the peak of Nightmare on Elm Street, but certainly not for Jason and for Michael Myers.
No, but I think you're seeing with Jason the influence of Freddy Krueger's success in in this next one that we're watching.
Yeah,
So,
we're gonna break all those down, and David, it's like Christmas for you. It's your favorite time of year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shocktober returns.
It's like, well, with if we're staying on schedule with releasing this, it's like, it's that time where right after July 4th, now the Halloween decorations are about to get into the stores. Just this, it's started. It's just about to start.
Oh yeah.
It just happens. It seems like it happens every year, a little bit earlier. You can get Christmas stuff way by as soon as Halloween ends, even though Thanksgiving's coming. So this is the creep. This is an early Shocktober, and I gotta stay on top of this. We can't have Shocktober bleeding into August.
I've been to Halloween.
We'll
I've
keep
been to
it at
Halloween
bay.
Town twice already. I don't know what you're talking about.
So, but yeah, so more is to come, and I'm looking forward to the one true champion of that genre. I mean, it's Freddy Krueger, so I'm gonna enjoy at least part of what's going to happen.
Yeah,
This is a good one. 4 is good.
Because I enjoy Michael Myers and Jason less and less and less as time goes on, and Freddy Krueger goes up and up and up. I'm of that generation. So,
but the point of all of them is to me, each franchise is really fascinating. Like the course that each of them take, and how they're, Brent, like you mentioned, their reactions to each other.
Yeah,
especially as you're in the later sequels that. Freddy's movie's a hit, so Jason and Michael Myers are trying to keep up with that and reinvent themselves, and it's not working. And then Freddy's next movie's a hit, and their movies just keep sliding down. And then Freddy himself is going to start to take a turn downwards pretty soon too. So,
well, and get excited because Halloween 6: Curse of Michael Myers stars our buddy Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
So
okay,
that's Now it's not the Paul Rudd you've grown to love and adore, but it's still Paul Rudd.
It's early Paul Rudd, right?
Yeah,
it is. It is early Paul Rudd.
Early Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
But so
but
stay
awesome.
tuned. We're going to have a really fun time this Shocktober. Those episodes are coming up. I had a great time talking about Alligator, and really, I do feel better just talking about it, and I feel like has worked through some of my issues. So maybe I can try swimming next summer.
Let's get you over to the YMCA.
Let's go hit the pool. No bathing suit? No problem.
We have a ReconCinemation pool here, so we might as well use it.
Well, we're going to blindfold you and toss you in.
Perfect.
So if something bad happens, you won't even see it coming.
Just how I like it. All right.
Credit card. Oh, sorry.
But before we go, let's circle back to what we talked about in the very beginning of the episode. It's our 6 degrees of ReconCinemation. David, what movie did you pick for us? And we'll tell you if we got there or not.
We went to 9 to 5 from Alligator.
9 to 5. Brent, do you have it worked out?
I got it. I have a version.
I have a version too. Why don't you kick it off? You do yours, and then I'll go.
All right, I'll do my version because it's probably a little in the gray area a bit, and yours is probably more true to form. So I'm gonna go, since we talked about him a couple different times, I'm gonna go Bryan Cranston from Alligator to Robot Chicken, which he did a guest spot on. Rob Paulsen also did a guest spot on Robot Chicken. Rob Paulsen is a
Voice
very
actor?
seasoned voice actor.
Oh yeah, Rob Paulsen. Yep.
Who, shout out to Rob Paulsen, was a character in my first project called The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron. He played Carl Weezer, so gotta loop him into this. But he was also in G.I. Joe the animated movie with Earl Bowen, who was also in G.I. Joe the animated movie. Earl, if you don't recognize his name, was the doctor from Terminator, but he is also in 9 to 5.
Wow.
That's a good one, Brent.
Wow.
There you go.
That's a good one.
All right, what do you got,
wow.
John?
I took a very different path, but
I went the animated route because of my history, so I decided.
That
works for you.
You did it. I took our other friend Dabney Coleman.
Yeah.
Dabney Coleman to Paul Newman, in The Towering Inferno. Paul
Nice.
Newman to Lee Marvin in Pocket Money. Lee Marvin to Robert Forster in The Delta Force.
Boom.
Nice.
There it
There you
is.
go. So
Wow.
2 very different paths, but they work.
Amazing.
All roads lead to Alligator. That's all.
That's true.
So the quickest one, there's a lot of 2-steps that I found.
Oh, really?
That, I'm
I'm
not
from Texas. I'm all about a 2-step.
a Texas 2-step. Robert Forster was in the Rear Window remake in the 80s or right with Christopher Reeve. Late 90s,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then Daryl Hannah's in that. And then Daryl Hannah's in Steel Magnolias with Dolly Parton.
Oh,
There you
yeah.
go.
So Dolly Parton to
That works.
That's
It's
yeah.
like
That's a good one.
yeah.
I didn't
That's
know.
a good one.
I used a tool to figure that out. I did not come up with that. But
That's fine.
so
All right.
good job, everybody. Nice work. I mean,
Yeah, we did it. And
That's a
next
nice
week, I think we'll do a switcheroo. Brent, you get to pick the movie, and David and I will try and
Yeah.
get a path to an answer. So,
All right. Porkies, get ready.
connected all the porkies.
Just kidding. That's terrible.
all right, guys. Well, you can find us. We're on social media, ReconCinemation Podcast, on all your platforms except Thread. We're not doing the Threads thing yet.
Don't do that. Yeah.
Nope, not touching it.
Next
So
week.
anywhere but that, and Friendster. We're finally locked out of our Friendster account. So,
We're not on Blue Sky either. Just Twitter, Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah. And you can check out our archives at ReconCinemation.com. If you can, give us a 5-star rating and review. It really helps the show and boosts our visibility. We appreciate that. Quick thank you to our friends E.K. Wimmer for the theme music and Curtis Moore for the incredible poster like this one for Alligator. It was fun talking about Alligator. It was fun talking about Robert Forster because we miss him very much. But stay tuned. We got a lot of fun coming our way for the rest of Shocktober here on ReconCinemation.
Take care.
Bye now.
The alligator wants food to chew. Feed him just right, or he'll feed on you.
Better be lucky with the spinner that tells you to feed him or take out his dinner.
Give him a TV, only he knows just when his jaws are ready to close.
Take out a jug, put in a case.
He's losing his patience, just look at that face.
Feed him a can if that's what you choose.
Throw in a block and you lose. The alligator game.
From Ideal.